welcome to class. Today we are going to draft a skirt sloper. So I have my basic tools for pattern making. I have my pencil, I have a razor, I have a tape measure, I have a pattern master which can serve as an armhole cuff, it can serve as an hip cuff, it can serve as a ruler. Unfortunately, it's not very straight anymore. I have a long ruler, within the short ruler actually, but I don't have that here with me. So whenever you're making yours, you are going to need a short ruler too, because as we're going further, you're going to understand the reason why I said so. So now, the first thing we are going to do here is to explain what a skirt sloper is. A skirt sloper is just a basic skirt pattern from which other other skirt designs can be made. So now, what are those measurements required for a basic skirt? We need a waist measurement, we need the hip measurement, we need the waist to hip line measurement, and we need the skirt length. So now, the first thing I'm going to do here is to explain how we're going to start drafting. But before we do that, we should know that when drafting, we just draft half of each bodice. That is, the front bodice will be drafted half and the back bodice will also be drafted in half. So that means we're going to draft a quarter for each bodice. So now, and that means we're going to divide the width that we have, such as the waist and the waist and hip measurements, into half. So as we go further, you'll understand better. So now we have the waist, now we have the bust, we have the hip measurement, which is the widest part of the measurement, and for my own is 37 inches. For the client that we're going to use, actually is 37 inches. So now we have the waist and the hip measurement to be 37 inches. So since we said we are drafting half of each bodice, that means we're going to divide the hip measurement into 2. So we have 37 divided by 2. So that gives us 18.5. But we're not going to use 18.5 like that. We are going to add what we call ace allowance. So I do advise to use 2 inches. So that means we're going to have the 0.5 for each bodice. So now we have 2 inches. 2 inches plus 18.5, we're going to have 20.5. So I'm going to measure from the tip of my pattern paper. I'm going to measure and mark 20.5 here. So I'm going to go to 20.5 here, and I'm going to start drafting. So what I'm now going to do is I'm going to take my long ruler. So I'm going to take my long ruler and I'm going to rule a straight line. I'm just trying to rule a straight line with my fake long ruler. So now I have this. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to label the left side CB. For you to see it, the left side here is CB. So we're going to go to the right side, then we label it CF. So CB means central back and CF means the central front. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to measure down the desired length for my skirt. So I'm going to make the length of my skirt to be 18 inches. So this is where 18 inches end. I'm going to measure from CB as well. Then I'm going to roll a line, a straight line. So I'm going to roll a straight line. So I'm going to join this line. So such that we are going to have a square. So we have a square. I'm going to label this A. I'm going to label this B. That is the first step. We're just going to have our square. This is what we've done. So the next thing I'm going to show you now is that we're going to divide the square into half, such that we have the center back side and the center front side. So that means I'm going to have 10.25 on each. Since we have 20.5 in chord, we are going to have 10.25. So I'm going to measure 10.25. Then I'm going to square down. That is the second step. The first step is to rule a square line to have the width of the half of your hip plus 2 inches ace, and the length will be your desired skirt length. Then the next step is to divide the bodies into half equal part. So we have AB as the underneath here. So we're going to have this half as half line, the midline as CD. So that is the next thing. Then the next thing we are going to do now is to measure the hip length. So I'm going to go to the CB here. From CB now I'm going to measure my hip length, my hip to waist length, which is 8 inches. So I'm going to measure 8 inches here. Go to the center here too and measure my 8 inches. Then I'm going to go to the CF and measure the 8 inches too. After that, we're just going to rule a line from CB to CF to have the hip line. So we have the hip line. So now the next thing now is to concentrate on the CB here. That is why I drew the line closer, so the camera closer for you to see the CB and C. So now this is what we've done. The next thing I'm going to do now is to create the darts. So the dart is always the nipple point to nipple point. So now the nipple point to nipple point here for this client is 7.5. So divided by 2, we're going to have 3.75. That means that is where our dart will start from. So we're going to measure 3.75 here. And since it's back bodies, we're going to measure down 6 inches. So the dart will be 6 inches long. This is where we need a short ruler. So I'm going to rule down this line here. So I'm going to label it E. So we have E here. So the next thing I'm going to do is to measure to create my dart intake. So how much dart intake do I want? So I'm going to make my dart intake to be 1 inches. It depends, it's not fixed. You can increase or reduce yours. Just put into consideration the ace allowance. So I'm going to measure half inches here. I hope you can see it, and I'm going to measure half inches here. So that means the distance between the dart here and here will be 1 inches. So I'm now going to take my ruler and shape my dart. just shaping my darts. So we have the dart ready. Then the next thing to do is to measure the hip, to shape the hip. So how do we shape the hip? The first thing is to know the waist measurement. So the waist measurement for the center back is 8 inches because we have 32 and we have just a quarter of the waist here. So we have 32 divided by 4 to give us 8 inches. And since we have 1 inches that intake, that means we're going to have 1 inches plus 8, we have 9 inches. So I'm going to measure 9 inches here. Then I'm going to mark it. So then I can shape my hip with my hip curve. So I'm going to take my hip curve, go to the right to back side, to the wrong side of the hip curve to shape the hip. But before then, we're going to measure 0.5 upward for the curve of the hip. You can measure 0.25. I'm using 0.5. So I'm going to go down like this just to shape my hip. So I have this. Now we are almost done. Then now this that we have this extension here, we're going to join this extension to the middle of the darts. So we have this. Just make sure you shape it well to make it blend well. So we have this, and we are done with the back bodies. So we're going to shift to the front bodies now. This is the front bodies. So we're going to go to the front bodies and shape. So just like we did for the back bodies, we are going to measure the, let's locate the hip line. So now the next thing is to get the tape, measure the that space. So we have the nipple point to half of the nipple point to nipple point, just like the back bodies. We have 3.75, but this time around we're going to roll down 5 inches. So we measure the 5 inches down. So we have 5 inches here. So I'm just going to measure 5 inches down. So the back bodice is 6 inches while the front body is 5 inches. So I'm going to create my dart by measuring, since my dart intake is 1 inches, so I'm going to measure 0.5 on each side. Then I'll shape the dart. So we have the darts. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to go to the side here, the side, and measure up 0.5 as well. So shape, make it blend it. Let me use this. So we have something like this. Then let's erase it first. We missed a step. So after creating the dart, we shape the side. This by measuring that intake, which is 1 inches, plus the waist arc, which altogether give 9 inches. So I'm going to measure 9 inches on my waistline. Then we'll measure up is 0.5 for the extension. Then we shape by going to the right side of the cuff. So we have the cuff shape. Then the next thing is to blend the extension to the waistline. So the extension has been blended and we are done. So what next is just to get our tracing wheel and trace out the skirt sloper. But since I don't have one, I'm going to use my scissors. So we're going to start tracing from the back bodies. So I'm going to trace out. So we have this and this. We have the back, supposed to label it. We have the back bodies. Make sure you always label. And we have the front bodies. So now I'm going to trace out the dots. Create the dots for the front bodies. So, and we are done. So these are the skirt sloper. So they are very nice, and they can be used to draft all different types of skirts. So that is all about basic skirts sloper, and I hope you understand it, and I hope you're going to try it out. That is very important. Please do try it out, ask questions. See you in the next class. Bye bye.